Moi, I personally think that if a society, a brotherhood, an infamous congregation organizes and stages series of events surrounded by lies and deception for obvious agendas as power, control, it could actually have a sense, sinister in origin obviously, but would give us the possibility to see them coming, to prepare for them. But when a society, a brotherhood, an infamous congregation transforms the entire reality into a staged massive deception, when with their lies the deceived are all of your family members, your loved ones, you can no longer find any sense in their action. It is obviously not the power, that control that they want to achieve. It is the total collapse of your consciousness, your uniqueness, the complete distortion of your history and origins. Because you are very powerful. Your ancestors were enlightened. Your thoughts can create the perfect reality if wished. When we understand that, this staged massive deception, all of those events, they can no longer affect us. And for every new lie, we will expose with honor and respect 1,000 of them. For every tree they will cut down, we will seed 1,000 back. And for every new mind they will hypnotize with their lies, we will free up 1,000 more. What if this staged reality have only less or around 200 years? And before? Well, certainly it wasn't what this parasitic society is trying to print in our memories. Between the viewers, there are a lot of awakened people. For those, this video will be just a memory refresh with some news. But for those who haven't heard yet about its topics, well, for those, this might turn out to be an interesting, creepy ride. On the screen at this moment, we can appreciate some old, beginning of 1900 photograph of the beautiful city of Helsinki, capital of the country of Finland. The sparkling daily life of a small city is very notable. But this one belonged to the 1850s. Where are the people? The image is showing us the same important center of the capital. On the screen, I'm presenting you an entire series of pictures clearly showing us Helsinki as a desolated city during the 1850s and 60s. Interesting is the date of the beginning of its position as capital of the country, 1812. What a surprise right after a gigantic fire that devastated, almost completed the old buildings and large areas of the city center, precisely in 1808. But we will talk about this convenient Finnish fake city fire in the future. But what I would like to point out in those late 1800 photographs is very visible, for example, on this image, dated precisely to 1880. What happened to that wall? Just look at the stairs of the most important building of a city that just became capital of a country. Mud or dirt everywhere. By the way, this is a good example of how fake is the official history of Helsinki and all of the other European capitals. That building was completed for the so-called historians in 1852. Look at its condition some 25 years later. What an absolute hoax. Look at its walls. What happened to the city? And as we can see, closer we move with the photograph toward the 1900, more and more crowded markets and streets are visible. But whatever happened to the walls and streets, the capital hasn't fully recovered yet. But it's not only Helsinki. This is the city of Oulu, also located in Finland. Where are the people? This photo is of the supposed oldest city of the country, Turku, and around the 1860s, no people. This one is a very interesting picture, also of the city of Turku. It is already toward the end of 1800 and is showing us some crowd in the square part of the city center. First of all, those could be cows or goats, for what we know, but that's not the point. And the photograph belonging to the end of 1800 already could present us the cities getting repopulated. But what I would like to point out is that indeed people, or cows, would have appeared on the pictures of those times. There's no reasons to believe that due to some sort of movement of the people, animals, trolleys, or the few second delay of the camera to capture the image, the device could have just missed to capture the persons on the images that I have already presented you, and the many more that I will present you soon. A photographer that I have consulted sent me this picture of the city of Milano, Italy, belonging to the 1860s. You can clearly see that due to their movements, the various people are appearing largely blurred, but they don't vanish. Let's also point out the lack of boats in the sea in front of important harbors, making this missing people enigma very real. In this photograph of the town of Naantali, West Finland, we can observe that also the windmill are stopped, otherwise they wouldn't be captured so well defined. More proof that something very mysterious is clearly going on. Another thing that I would like to mention before really starting this creepy presentation is that observing the shadows of the various buildings help us more or less locate in time of the day the various photographs, pointing out that they were not taken when people were, for example, sleeping. So let's begin. Being located in Europe, I will start looking for answers to this mysterious lack of people in 160 years old pictures in some of the various cities that I have personally visited in multiple occasions. Let's start with the beautiful Copenhagen, capital of the country of Denmark, in 1860. Where are the people? Plenty of buildings, nobody around. No horses, trolleys, nothing. This one is Stockholm, Sweden, around 1860s. Not a lot of boats in such important harbor. This is the city of Venezia, Italy. No comments are needed. Same with the Italian capital of Rome. Nobody around the ruins. This is the center of the splendid city of Prague, Czech Republic, again around 1860s. Look at the shadows. It is maybe around noon or so, in the center of a capital like Prague. Where are the people? And this one is the amazing Lisbon, capital of Portugal. What is going on here? Again, look at the shadows. Where are the people? This is the center of Lisboa. In Barcelona, doesn't seem to be much different situation. Nobody. But here comes the nicest one. Look at my Madrid, capital of Spain. This is just unbelievable. This is the main street that goes from La Puerta del Sol to Plaza Cibeles, pure center of Madrid. Look at Cibeles. No comments. Still not convinced that what you are seeing is at least creepy. Look at Amsterdam, capital of the beautiful Holland. This is Dam Square, if I'm not mistaken. And again, we can see that a person on the right side of the image is blurred due to his movements, but he hasn't vanished. More desolation in the capital of the Netherlands, no boats in the canals, but this one is largely the best. Look at Budapest, the majestic capital of the amazing Hungary. Not only the streets of the city center are totally desolated, but look at the Duna River. Where are the boats? Where are the people, guys? Reykjavik, capital of the country of Iceland. No people. Let's move to Germany, Berlin, 1860, total desolation. Frankfurt, also in Germany. This one is an 1846 photograph. Plenty of buildings, nobody in the street. Athens, capital of the country of Greece, same period, total emptiness. But let's make it larger and earlier. The massive London, 1839, totally desolated. By the way, in England, they are doing epic works in exposing this and other very mysterious facts about our fake timeline, as the one that I will present you in the various parts of this documentary. I will post links in the description of channels that are covering this topic, and please feel free to post in the comment every info that can help us solving this and the other various issues that I will present. Let's continue. Same we can appreciate in the huge Paris. No people, or very, very few. Tons of houses and buildings, but no people. In this image, also from Paris, we have a so-called unknown event going on. It is 1843. As with the Finnish town of Turku, first of all, those could be cows for what we know. But that's not the point. The point is that indeed people or cows could be caught by the camera. So there is no explanation for this panoramic photo. The absolutely empty city on the screen is the gigantic St. Petersburg, Russia. I personally think that it is at least creepy. Actually, of St. Petersburg, you can find a lot of photographs belonging to the area of 1860s, and in all of them there is total lack of human activity, or like in this case, just one or two people. But what is really interesting about this picture is the wall of the building and the column on the left side of the image. What happened to that building? Where did all of that dirt or mud came from? Do you remember this photograph of Helsinki that I showed you earlier? There we can observe the same situation. Something had happened to those buildings to reduce in such deplorable condition. But I personally think that I'm not the right person to comment the ghostly appearance of the Russian cities in those times, having a magnificent Russian researcher that is many years exposing these facts. Let me proudly present you Sir Philippe Trushinin.
Highly populated area is supposed to be like that, but no people, no people, no people. And for example, if you tell me there couldn't be no people on a picture, but here's the picture with people on it. So if the people was there, if they were walking around and stuff like that, so the picture could have pictured them. And this one is made in the beginning of 20th century. And again, 1860s, nobody. Only one guy here, as you can see. Maybe one here. 4 and 5-story buildings with no windows in them. Look at it. Something strange here. Another example of a picture of beginning of 20th century with people on it. So you can see people, a ordinary thing in the photos of beginning of 20th century and 19th century. But when you picture 80s, 1860s, you'll either see just somebody, not very much, but nobody's walking around like that. Again, 1860s. Nobody on the streets. This is again St. Petersburg. As you can see, the shadow of this Alexander column is pointing that way. So it means like uh, the sun is in about 10 or 9, at least 10 a.m. in the morning, which is supposed to be the time where people was walking around and doing something. Nobody is here, only 2 cabs over here, and that's it. And this is the center of the huge city. As you can see, it's huge. Now the Paris one. This is 20th century. Again, we can see people. 1860s, nobody. 20th century, people. 1860s, either a couple of cabs or nobody at all. So here's how much people were in the beginning of 20th century. Look at this. Just imagine. And this is 1860s. This is 1860. Not many people, as you can see. Not many people. I'm not saying there were completely no people, but not as much as it were in the beginning of 20th century. Although cities are the same, pretty much the same. Again, this is St. Petersburg. And here are what I found here. I found this mud cleaning process going on the street. Look at this. This is 1861. 1861. Like one guy, maybe here is a guy also. Looks like it's a person. At least 2 people here. And one of them is working with the shovel. Looks like he is banded and digging something. Looks like a cleaning of mud process, something like that. But maybe I'm wrong, maybe just something, a routine check, something like that. Okay, what else here? Look at the roofs. All roofs are made of steel, I think it's called. So they're all brand new. The roofs are brand new, but no people. No people. Not much people, I'd say. Here's 20th century, bunch of people on the streets. 20th century. Again, 1861, same panoramic picture. 1 cab, 2 cabs, 3 cabs. The center of St. Petersburg. Another part of this panoramic view. And here completely no people here. Nobody. And again, the final part of this panoramic view. One ship here, second ship, 4 ships active. The rest are just docked and stuff like that. 20th century, you can see more people here. 20th century, a bunch of people. Couple of ships and nobody on the streets. Oh, we see one guy here, probably, with a dog and stuff like that.
I personally think that it is not needed for me to add any comment. These images, very well described by Sir Philip, showing us this 1860s panoramic view of St. Petersburg, are just staggering. Where are the people? No mystery, dude. They were all in Finland, cutting, lifting, pulling, dragging the hundreds of columns, part of the city buildings. Nothing new. I would like to stop for a few seconds on this particular section of the photograph. Sir Philip was pointing out, as I did previously with Helsinki, this strange dirt or mud that looks like it's under process of being removed or cleaned up. Where is it coming from? But we will get slowly to research that piece of the puzzle along with the presentation. Let's continue. At this point, we are starting to collect proof and evidence of this absolutely baffling lack of people, or missing people, as Philip called it, in Europe and now in Russian cities. But what about America? Let's start straight with the big guys. Ciudad de Mexico. This is the center of the massive Mexico City. Mira el Zócalo. Where are the people? In this other photograph, we can appreciate again some kind of cleanup process going on, or some works to put in order the mess that is around all of those squares. But look at the next one. Again, Ciudad de Mexico. Look at the dirt or mud. Look at the arches of that aqueduct, which I guess the Roman built 2000 years ago. But how fake can be the fairy tale of the so-called Roman Empire? Let's continue. Look at the condition of the city streets. Where are the people? Washington, D.C., capital of the United States of America, largely inhabited metropolis. No doubt about it. This one of New York is very interesting. Again, we can see a lot of fixing, cleaning, and various construction sites in the streets. I really would love to see closer what's under the building on the left side of the image. I don't know why, but I have a strong feeling that it continues many meters under the current street level. But what's very interesting is that dirt or mud that is visible in the distance along the street. Where is it coming from? Next one, my beautiful Montreal, Canada. Really little happening also there. Look at the street center on the right side of the photograph. I'm not saying that in all of those cities there was no people, but really not many it should be. And looking at the massive Saint Laurent River, not many boats for such strategic body of water. Again, Montreal in the 1860s. Tons of buildings, windows 90% closed, no sign of people. And look at the shadows. It's again around noon. Next one, Montreal Center, total desolation. But I personally think we should consult for some observation and answers at North American research. Being on the spot, I imagine he had noticed it more detailed than us from Europe. Let's listen what one of my favorite channels at this moment have to say about this strange missing people enigma. Let me proudly present you Conspiracy R Us.
In the 1850s, Toronto, there were some photographs taken, and I know other people have showed how desolate the cities were in the 1850s. Like, I think London, I've seen, presentations of how there was no one walking around in the cities in the 1850s. I think London, someone did for one from Russia, but this is going to be the Toronto edition. And I just wanted to show you these pictures were found. And we actually have two people here and a person here, but it's just mud streets, nice architecture, hardly anyone here. Not a lot going on. You don't see tons of buildings, but there's supposed to be roughly 300,000 people in Toronto at that time, or at this time, or sorry, at that time, but it was a lot smaller as well. So like, look at just absolutely barren, devoid of life. It is kind of eerie, isn't it? Not a lot of people. And here's just some rooftops, but there we go. There's a couple people here in like a horse and buggy, but just like it goes on, and there's just almost nobody on the streets. Again, and what's interesting about these intersections is like they have planks laid down so that people can actually cross the road, because it's all just dirt. But tons of structures, very little people. It's almost like they were dug out. Again, another thoroughfare here, nobody. And I think I see like a buggy and just a lot of emptiness, no people. And again here, like nice structures, like who's building all this stuff? And you got these walkways and just a bunch of dirt. It's pretty interesting when you look back at it. Again, dirt, the walkway up here, and there's I can't see anybody. I'm not sure if that's a person there, but very few people, tons of buildings. Nothing. Nobody. Another walkway. That might be a cart or something, but there's no people. And someone's reconstructing this church, but I don't know, that might be a person down there, not sure. But like not many people. This is virtually a gang back at this time. I mean, that's as many people as you're gonna see. Like I'm surprised there's that many actually. So I just wanted to throw in the Toronto version of this, desolate cities, basically Toronto style. So I think I'll just leave it here, but yeah, so everything's pretty much a lie, guys, and I'm on board with this short time frame.
So, is there still someone that need more evidence, more proof? Something was clearly going on in those decades. Let's stop for a second on this photograph of Toronto that the magnificent Conspiracy Are Us channel had highlighted. As we can clearly observe, we have again roads full of dirt or mud, and also in Toronto, as in St. Petersburg, there are some cleaning process going on along with some other construction or fixing sites. So where is all that mud coming from? We will get there later on. This one is Singapore in 1844. What a ghostly looking place. Gisborne, New Zealand. Nobody around. Very, very dirty roads. Sydney, Australia, 1858. Buildings and houses, very little people. But I would like to stop for a few more seconds in Sydney, because the channel Conspiracy Are Us just came out with a really amazing finding. Let's listen.
Is this picture, and there's this trench being dug up. And there's two things about this picture that are interesting. And this is Washington Street in the Rocks area, Sydney, 1900. And this is from a series of images showing the area affected by the outbreak of the plague. And yeah, so they are supposedly digging a trench in this picture. So I have another picture. I have that picture downloaded, and I want to zoom in on it because what's interesting to me, if you read the graphics here, or the caption, open trench in Washington Street where bones, horns, and old piles were unearthed. So you can kind of see these horns here. I don't know why from what? I don't know what animal, but I don't know why there's these horns there. And also, okay, so this is ground level here. And as they're digging this trench, like right here, I don't know, are these wooden beams? Is this brick? To be honest, I'm not sure what this is, but I just wanted to point it out just because it is, another 10 feet below ground level. As they're digging this trench, you're seeing not only are they finding horns, but they're, I don't know, maybe this is how they built foundations back in the day. I don't know if these are wooden beams or if this is brick, but this is just a mysterious picture to me. And I just wanted to point it out because of it's got just so much going on.
What an amazing presentation. There is really something pure and honest in what this guy is doing. I strongly call for help in supporting his remarkable findings. Same with the channel of Philippe Droskinin. What an honor for me to be working with such epic channels. But let's go back to Europe. I always feel at home when I see this typical old South European architecture. All of the little towns in the north of Italy, for example, have the same building style. Isn't it pretty? The only problem is that the city on the screen is Hong Kong. Hong Kong, guys. No comments. And here we can appreciate a famous street in Rome. The old Italian architecture always fascinated me. But the city on the screen is Mumbai in India. India, folks. Cool. I'm not even going to start with Tokyo or Japan in general, but we will talk deeply about these architecturally dementia lies later on. For the moment, let's point out one thing. If the people were not around cities in those times, where were they? First things that come to my mind. Underground? Of course not. If just 160 years ago, all of those people, for any reason, would have to hide or search for protection underground, we would have noticed it. There would be countless accounts of the hard reality of being underground in bunkers in books throughout the planet. But that's not the case. To give you an example, my grandmother grew up in one of the areas of Italy where the Second World War had hit in its worst. Her three brothers were killed in Buchenwald, an important concentration camp, and my grandma, with few years old, had to search for protection underground in bunkers several times. She's still totally under shock. 70 years have passed and she still can't pass under a small street bridge. Why am I even talking about the possibility of large number of people during the first half of the 1800s being moved underground? Well, because under many of the cities that I have presented you, there are gigantic networks of tunnels and bunkers. Helsinki, capital of Finland, for example, have some couple of 100 kilometers of man-made tunnels beneath its street. Some 200 kilometers, folks, obviously are attributed to the construction skills of workers of the 20th century. Enormous, some 10 million cubic meters of bunkers and roofs. But listen to this one. They call them ghost stations. They are building useless tunnels and metro stations since the 1960s. There are 5 of them, by the way, as large as the real subway tunnels and stations. but fake, useless, meaningless. Then, after a few decades, they transformed them in some kind of underground sport facilities, pools, and other stuff. They are not even hiding the fact that they are ready to introduce in them hundreds of thousands of people if needed. No comments. But we will research this underground piece of the puzzle later on. For the rest, I really hope that my theory of millions of people around the World Series being underground is highly wrong. But it's not the moment yet to drop conclusion. By the way, on the screen, you can appreciate an 1840 photograph of the moon. What a circus is this one! These are images of our planet belonging to the same period. Look at the quality of the picture of our world, and look at the moon. You can now clearly believe that it is 385,000 kilometers away. On this one, I will keep my mouth shut though. So what about all of that dirt or mud? Let me first try to make you understand what I'm looking for in those old photographs. I think Sir Philippe can give us some very good hints.
Again, only one person, although you can see a bunch of houses here. But as I was saying, there's some signs of devastation. Look at this. I don't know what it is, but looks like a mud wave. Again, signs of devastation. Level which was actually excavated here, as you can see. This is the actual level of the job.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm researching. I can go on forever showing you proof of this strange mud flow contained in Philippe's video. And I will, but that's the next part of this documentary. For the moment, let's listen what the channel Conspiracy R Us have to say about my various questions.
So now let's take a look at this concept of reset cities. We've talked about in previous posts, and other people have, when you look at photos from like the 1850s of St. Petersburg and London, and this is Toronto here, there's seemingly very little to no people in and around them. And we're just taking a look at some of the photos. Again, this is Toronto. And this has led to a lot of speculation as to, were these cities staged? So it looks like there was a disaster that happened, and these areas definitely got hit. And there's a couple of people walking around now, but it almost seems like there's been work done to clean up these cities, and then people seem to have been reintroduced to the cities. I mean, that's one kind of position that you can take on it. So with this kind of lens of this possibility of cities being staged, when you kind of go back and look at this concept of these Chinese ghost cities, and you start rethinking kind of the official narrative. So throughout China, there are hundreds of cities that have almost everything a person could need, except for one major factor: people. So they're saying hundreds of cities here. Mysterious, almost completely empty. Now they're saying it's a large part of a larger plan to move up to 300 million citizens currently living in rural areas into urban locations, and that could be true. And let me just read this real quick. Unlike in the US, where cities often begin as small developments and grow, these new Chinese cities are built to the point of near completion before introducing people. So as we scroll down and just kind of take a look at some of these cities, I don't even necessarily believe that countries as we think of them are even a reality. I think obviously they're a reality, but behind the scenes, everything is coordinated. I don't think there's any accidents on the plane. I think everything is staged, and especially major things like all these ghost cities. And so, do I believe it's a possibility that they could be moving people in these things in a future date? Yeah, I believe it. But do I believe that could be a cover story? And could these be possible future reset cities? You know, I'd have to definitely consider that as a possibility as well. Yeah, and they're saying they're built for the distant future. So you could take that in a couple ways. The conspiratorial way would be that they're anticipating maybe another reset, and it's not only in China that you have these, but there are in Angola, in Africa. China has built some ghost cities, or at least a ghost city in China, or sorry, in Africa. Ghost city in Angola.
This is getting creepier and creepier. So, again, what about all of that dirt or mud? As I already mentioned before in my videos, I am a very lucky donkey, and the only neighbor that I have in the wilderness where I live turns out to be, apart from the coolest guy on this planet, an expert on boats. Well, a few weeks ago he told me, do you know that there is some weird giant structure on an island in the middle of the sea?